So good morning, everybody, and welcome to our live Zoom call presentation of the 2020 design catalog for CWP version 24.01. On with the overview. So what is new with the 2020 catalog for 2024? So the new 2020 catalog will follow the CWP product pricing catalog that we just published, version 24.01. So the list prices have been updated. We have new construction updates. They're going to render. We had new inset options offered. We have new accessories added to the program. We have more styling section details in 2020. Cabinet enhancements have been updated. We have graphic visualization of accessories, and we've enhanced the Idea Center file options. So I'll take you through. So we had some styling section enhancements. And in 2020, they call this a global styling validation. And what we're trying to do is get this closer to what the experience would be like when you logged into the partner site and we're creating a project. So some of that information in a CWP project, the styling section, that information was not being captured on 2020. So now we have endeavored to get a little bit closer. So it's going to look and feel a lot like the CWP partner site. We added the Metro and chamfered inset, partial and full overlay. We added some door information. So 2020 is going to ask you for what the panel is going to be made out of, or if there's going to be additional panel enhancements. Those are questions that they're going to be asking you in that global validation. Also, the top drawer height was not something that we were asking for in 2020, but it's important to us to understand that. And we're asking for that as well now. There's a new link to the color library for 2020. This again came from feedback, I think, from other product catalogs that are out there. So if you select Fan Deck in the styling area, once you've picked all your style selections, a box is going to pop up so that you can update the color. The color will render correctly for your project. The only product catalog, or the only paint catalog in 2020s that is vendor specific, is for Sherwin-Williams. So that's the color that you can pick from. Obviously, CWP will make any other brand colors, but in 2020, it'll only render a generic color, or it's going to default to Sherwin-Williams. But that's an enhancement. We didn't have that plug-in before, and people had asked about that. Like I alluded to earlier, we have that new construction. So we got away from the corner blocking in our construction, and now we had a rolling change. Now we offer the 3.5-inch stretcher that runs the length of the cabinet. That is going to render in 2020. Wide style with scribes. It was pointed out to us from our designers out there that this was not rendering correctly. So we have 2020 has fixed that so that now you can identify your wide style and also identify how much of a scribe you want, and that's going to render correctly. And in the prior versions of 2020, anytime you did that wide style with scribe, it was increasing the size of our cabinet. That is not the rule for CWP. When you're doing a wide style with a scribe, the face frame remains the same, and that is going to function correctly. That was a big deal for us. The blind corner. So in CWP world, we have the BCBC, which is a separate entity in our spec. That item still exists as a separate product code, and you can pick just the BCBC, but we added the option of you being able to pick the BCBC as an add-on and attach it to a base cabinet. And then at the same time, you can add on your corner conveniences. So in a plan, it would show correctly as a traditional blind as you might know it from other manufacturers. Again, that was feedback that you guys were looking for something like that. Stephanie's going to take you through all of this in a live demo following my presentation. Back modification updates. They weren't working the same universally, whether you did a paneled back or a working door, false door back, it wasn't functioning the same way. And in either case, you weren't able to pick, you weren't easily able to pick the number of panels that you were selecting. So that has been changed. And we'll demo that later. You'll see this ask variable will pop up asking you how many panels you want to show on the back of that panel. Drawers on tall cabinets. We had a lot of people asking us for the drawers to render or show visibly when you were attaching an extra drawer specifically for tall cabinets. So it works graphically for tall cabinets. We'll get there on other cabinets, but that was the specific ask, and we did achieve that. And then again, graphic representation of accessories. People wanted to see the accessories that we were putting in. 2020 has a generic version, a generic catalog of accessories. So they went through our catalog and picked the closest generic version to what's in our catalog. They're not going to be vendor specific. You know, you can see in this little presentation drawing that the side mounted epoxy coated drawer runners, we don't ship that way, but that was what was in the catalog. But that was a request, and we have published that. Heavy duty floating shelves. There were some ask modifications that were not included when we published the heavy duty floating shelves. So when you submit a floating shelf into the plan, these ask variables will come up, which are depth, height, number of brackets, and then the corner treatment. It'll allow you to pick any number of brackets. So you just want to refer to our product catalog on what the number of brackets would be recommended. The actual depth and height are restricted to the restrictions that we have in our product catalog. So it won't allow you to pick outside of the depth and height that is allowable. Molding enhancements, just the crown placement. Again, this was feedback from the designers, and personally, I think it was just molding placement in 2020 would always want to place on the top of the face frame, which from a designer's perspective, we would probably never place on the top of the face frame. Also, our fascia or riser material was rendering horizontally and not vertically, so we have updated it. So it's placing vertically. It's overlaying the face frame as it should. Pardon me. And when you stack molding, the molding will not stack on top of that riser. It will stack, the back of that crown will stack on the front face frame as you would want it. And Stephanie will take you through this, but we have enhanced your ability to attach add-ons much easier than having to go through the attributes and hunt for your modification. We'll make it real easy for you to be able to attach modifications, huge time saving. Stephanie will take you through that. We have published product codes, the 2020 catalog product codes. This can be found in our training materials section in design software. Under add-on codes. Stephanie spent a lot of time adding additional codes from the original published code document, so that has been enhanced, and Stephanie's going to take you through that, so that'll make a little more sense in a minute. And again, if you weren't familiar with this function, anytime you're in a PDF, you can hit Control F and a find box will come up. So you could search any document using keywords. We have set up our product code document in such a way that you could just, if you don't know the code, you can search for the code using this Control F function. And I think Stephanie may take you through that. If you have questions about that, reach out to your reps. But that's going to just be another easy way to find codes without going through that attributes and searching for them. And just idea center files. Again, it's a quick way to add cabinets that we have pre-configured popular cabinets that include a variety of enhancements or attachments that are just going to save you time. We're just picking the most common ones. cabinets with pull-out waste baskets or cutlery dividers. We've added some island ideas. We've added some other rooms that I believe are going to render properly. And they're just good time savers and may inspire you to specify cabinets for other rooms. We'll take you through how to download.
Well, let's jump into it and walk through some of what Tom gave an overview of that is updated with this new 2020 catalog. So the first thing we're going to walk through is the changing to the styling section. Now, when you go through and do your styling section, it's going to mimic more when you're in our partner site and doing it in My Projects. So I'm just going to start by selecting a base cabinet. I'm going to put it over here on my drawing. And then I'm going to go to Styles and Pricing. I'm going to go to my catalog styles. And so this is where that global style validation screen is. And so I'm going to walk through this. So the first thing with the overlays is Tom mentioned the new inset, full inset Metro, full inset chamfer, as well as partial inset for Metro and chamfer are now reflected in this that you can use in your styling section. So I'm just going to start with marginal overlay. Let's do paint grade. I'm just going to select a door. So this is the other change or enhancement is now that it's going to ask you the questions about the panels. And so you'll click on that panel group first, and it's going to let you choose between recessed and raised. Then it's going to let you select the shape. So if you were wanting to do an arched, all those details are in here, but we're just going to keep it square. And then it's also going to let you select which panel type you want. So we'll do MDF. Now we're going to go to our drawer fronts, which is pretty similar to the way it's been. And as Tom was mentioning about the fan deck selection and it populating, I'm going to go ahead and select the fan deck so that I can show you where that's going to pop up. So I'm going to quickly go through here and select these other features that are very similar to how they have been in the past. This is the other change. Now it's going to ask you for that top drawer opening height. So you'll be able to select whichever one you want. Okay, so now we've completed all of the fields that need to be filled out. We're going to hit submit. And that is when this attributes for those special fan deck colors are going to pop up. So now you have an option that it's going to default to this Adriatic Sea. But if you click on the color, you'll see that the Sherwin-Williams menu is going to pop up here with all the colors. So I'm going to go in here and I'm going to find cast iron. So let's look for cast iron from Sherwin-Williams, which is right here. So I can select that, hit OK, and hit close. And then if I go to the attributes, we'll see that now it is saved in that custom Sherwin-Williams color. The other thing you'll notice too is what Tom was saying, showing that 3.5-inch stretcher is now shown instead of the corner blocks. Let's look at the change to the wide style and scribe. So if I go into the add-ons in my base custom modifications, base frame modifications, and wide style, if I click on the wide style, it's going to pop up with this menu. So now I'm going to be able to increase my style width and my scribe if I want to. I can hit OK and OK. And if we look, we'll notice that what it is now doing correctly is it has extended that style, which you can see in the photo. It's still keeping that cabinet at the 36 that we selected. And so you can see now that that is showing accurately. Also, that corner cabinet, the BCBC, you used to have to select that separately from the base cabinet. But if we were to go in here now and select a full height door, 21, and we're going to put it over here in the corner. And if we go into the attributes and add-ons, external items, we can go to base corner blind. And it now gives us the option that if we select that, it's going to give us the option to attach it. And now too, the other thing that is nice about this rendering is it doesn't look like it's two cabinets. It's actually the one cavity for the blind. And I could go back up here to the internal accessories. And if I wanted to put an accessory inside, I can do it, apply it. And now there is our blind corner cabinet shown instead of having to do it as two separate cabinets. Now let's talk about the paneled backs. So I'm going to grab two base 36s. And in this application, we'll pretend that this is going to be an island and we want to panel the back of that. So I'm going to right click on the right cabinet and go to attributes. And we're going to go to add-ons. And we're going to go to base custom modifications, side and back modifications. And then we're going to want to do a paneled back. So we're going to select that. And then when you select paneled back, it's going to give you this ask variable screen. Used to, when you did this, you could only make this back panel the width of what your one cabinet was. Now we have the option that since we have two cabinets side by side, we can actually make this back panel 72 inches wide. So it will span both of those 36 base cabinets. And then we can tell it the number of panels. So let's do 4 panels. Then it's going to ask you where you want this back panel placed. It's going to give you the choice of center, left, or right. And so if you're looking at the back of the cabinets, or in this case, the back of this island, you want the panel to go out to the left to cover that other base 36. So we can select left and OK. And so you'll see in this rendering that it's extended that. And when we apply and OK, when we look into our rendering here, it extended that back panel to cover the back of both the base cabinets. The other enhancement was the option of adding drawers to a tall cabinet. So if you select a tall pantry cabinet, go to attributes. And if we go to add-ons, tall custom modification, and our door and drawer options, this is where the extra drawers are. And now it's going to graphically show on the tall pantry cabinet. So I'm going to select our top one. I'm going to do a middle and then a bottom. And now you'll see that our 3 drawers are rendering in our tall cabinet. Then there's also the enhancement of being able to see the interior accessories in some of the cabinets. So I'm going to come over here and use this one, and let's just do a couple examples. So for instance, let's put some rollout trays inside this cabinet. And so if we select our rollouts, and it's going to ask us how many we want. And if we look on the inside of this cabinet, we can now see that it's showing those rollouts. We could also go to variables and we could open the door. And you can see that it's going to show those rollouts inside the cabinet now. Same thing if we were going to want to show a trash. Go to our internal accessories, door conveniences. We can just come in here and select a trash. now we see there's a pull-out in there, and it's also changed the placement of the pull on the door to be correct, like it is a trash pull-out. And again, you could come over here to variables if you wanted to see it open, and it'll show that trash inside there. And again, as we mentioned, it's the generic representation, so it may not be exactly what you're selecting, but it would be a close enough representation that you would be able to see that interior storage option. The heavy duty floating shelves. So you can select now that heavy duty floating shelf. And when you select it, it's going to give you the ask variables where you can change the depth, the height, select the number of brackets. So if you were doing a wider one and needed more brackets, that way too, it will price those for you. And then you can select your corner treatment. It won't let you go outside of our parameters. So for instance, if I try and do deeper than 16, it's not going to let me. So let's look at the molding change for the crown molding. So if I select a wall cabinet,
CWP 2023.
let's come find a molding. Let's select Dawn's crown.
This is what I wanted for a long time.
So now when we've added that crown,
I know how to do some stuff.
we look at this side elevation, you can see that it is putting the crown molding on that face frame instead of on top. One thing to note that if you do a solid stock molding, so let's select a solid lumber piece. Let's go back and do Dawn's crown. I selected marginal overlay in my styling section, so you can see that that solid stock piece is having a little bit of an interference. In that case, you would want to then increase the size of your top rail if needed to show that correctly. So now Tom had also mentioned that some time savers. Most of how I was showing you those accessories was by right-clicking, doing attributes and finding it throughout the list. You do have an option now of over here, you can actually type in the code. So for instance, I can just type in ROD for the rollout options, and I can just take a rollout and I can drop it into this cabinet. And it's going to ask me any questions that need to be answered as if you were doing it through the attributes. And so then you don't have to go through. I can do the same thing with a trash. I can type in the code for that RevoMotion single trash pullout, and then I can take it and drop it into the cabinet instead of having to go through attributes. So it's easy to be able to type that code. That's a time saver, which is why we mentioned having put together that document with the codes. So if you go to the partner site, and if you go to the training and reference material tab, and in the design software tab, this is where you're going to find the download for the new 2020 catalog. Any other, this is a video that we've had up, but we also have the 2020 add-on codes, which that creates this document here. So this is a list of all the codes, and it is searchable. So if I were to hit Control F, and if I was wanting to maybe do a wood can storage rack, I could type in wood can and search that. And it's going to give me the highlight where everything that says wood can is, and I would be able to get an idea of what that code is. So if I wanted to do an 8-inch wood can storage, then I could see that the code for that is the CSSC8. And I could come back over here. And if I had a base cabinet over here, I could then quickly type in that code, CSSC8, drag, and drop it. Then the last thing is going to be the Idea Center. So I'm not sure how many of you have been utilizing Idea Center, but 2020 has where you can save things to an Idea Center. But we've gone through and created some Idea Center files specifically for CWP. So that Idea Center file is in here. And that is something that you will go in and download. So if you click on Idea Center files, you'll see that it's going to automatically download up here in the corner, and it'll save it in your downloads, and then you can drag it to whichever folder you want to save it in. The way that we've done the Idea Center files, and I'm going to show you this. If you go to Idea Center Management, I have installed some of them already. Instead of having, this was our old Idea Center, and it was one folder where we had the cabinets inside it. We've now given individual folders for base cabinets, base corner, island ideas, refrigerator enclosures. So I'm going to back up for a second. So as I mentioned, you can download that Idea Center file document from our partner site. Then you will need to install those Idea Center files. And you do that by going to the file Idea Center, the Idea Center Management, and you can import those. So I'm going to click on import. So you'll see I've put these in a folder that I have saved as 2020 files. Some of these I've already gone through and installed, but I'm going to do tall cabinets. All you have to do is select it, hit open, and then it imports it. So I'm going to import the last one. It's quick to do. We'll close that, and then you'll see that you have an Idea Center, and here are 2020 defaults, but now all the new CWP. So for instance, if you go to the Idea Center file for base cabinets, we've gone through and created some commonly used cabinets with modifications. So in our catalog, we don't have a SKU for a base microwave cabinet. You take that base cabinet and add the modifications. This one here already has that microwave modification done to it. And so it's a quick drag and drop. Same with like this 9-inch spice pullout. I could also come over to sink base cabinets. So a farm sink, this one is already set up with that farm sink modification, showing that sink in there for you as well.